Hey everybody, welcome to the Horsefly Chronicles Experiments, episode 7 on Paranormal Zone TV. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. I did put up the disclaimers for the show, so please, I hope you read them. And everyone, thanks so much for joining us. And the show is with Phil Siracusa, author of the Horsefly Chronicles, and Karissa Fleck, psychic medium. And tonight's guest is Winter Laake. Winter, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you. It's nice to be on.
Would you please tell the viewers a little bit about yourself before we start the show?
Yes, I am a writer of the occult and satanic and black magic philosophy. I've written about 10 books on the subject. I am also a remote viewer and a psychometrist. I have worked with law enforcement to find the missing and the murdered, and also murderers. It's kind of a long path, but that's basically it.
Wow. All right, so Phil and Karissa, I'm going to turn the show over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Norene. Everybody, thank you for joining us. Episode number 7 of Paranormal Experiments. Now, tonight's show is a little different. Winter Laake, he told you his background, what he does, and, this is a demonic haunting. So I think it's the perfect storm to learn a little bit from people like himself that maybe tap into what's going on here with his abilities. So we wanted to put a different mix to this, and the Horsefly Chronicles, we're putting the puzzle together, and each episode is a piece. And I want to thank everybody for joining, for your suggestions, for watching us. And, we have a lot of work to do, but we're getting closer because every single experiment that was done in the last 6 weeks, at least 1 or 2 pieces of evidence have been taken and dissected to bring validity to this case. Now, that's interesting. And, the more we go forward, and as the week goes on after the episode, I really think about what's happening here and then what we're getting closer to. And people come forward and say, hey, did you see the light anomaly? Or did you see this and that? And there goes the flash. So I think tonight's going to be a very powerful night. 1, because of the haunting that I live, and 2, because of Winter Laake and his abilities. So I think that watch with caution, expect the unexpected, and this will be a great show and another piece of evidence for the Horsefly Chronicles. And thank you, Winter, for doing this with us.
Oh, it's going to be exciting.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. And Karissa, thank you for finding him.
Yep.
And, I want to turn it over to Karissa now.
Well, I'm really excited to do this show. And why don't you just tell the audience what you're going to be doing tonight?
Well, with me or...
Yeah, I didn't really tell him too much about this show. I had asked him if he wanted to know anything. He didn't, and then I just complained about my life. So here we are.
Are we going to solve a mystery? I do like solving them.
So he doesn't really know too much, but pretty much, I did give him a hint of what the show was about, just giving a reading into a case, and that's pretty much all I really told him. You pretty much told him more than I told him about the show in the little intro, but thank you so much for joining us.
Interesting, because, actually I like to go into things cold, and a real psychic will. A lot of charlatans in this business would not. And I am picking up some interesting vibes. And ironically, even though you can't see me on vid, which is just weird because we had some challenges with that, I was laying out some cards intuitively. And I was getting that there has been some serious issues going on, possibly with some women or death or something. And I don't know anything about this. This is not being front-loaded to me. But it's quite an interesting situation with the Ace of Swords and Reverse Devil. So I am intrigued on what you are up to.
Okay. Well, should we just get started?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
So what's going on?
Why don't you
Do you
Yes.
want
Well,
me?
you asking me, Winter? I'm sorry.
Yeah. What are we looking into? Are we looking into a specific? Are we trying to find someone,
Okay,
or
so
we have?
okay, yeah. Let me fill you in a little bit. So we're in the basement of the Horsefly Chronicles home. That's the name of the story. My life experience dealing with demonic entities. The other side. My story. You know, I've made deals, and back in the day, with so-called what people would raise their eyebrows, but I will say that evil entities do exist, and I've tampered for years and years with my own black magic and ghost show to see if it worked, and I opened up doors. Now I was after those doors were opened up, I felt like I had abilities, not psychic. I am not a medium or anything, but I have abilities to make things happen. But yet the downfall was that there was always something that was tailored to it following entities. So what you're doing and what we're trying to get tonight is to see what you pick up in the Horsefly home. We're in the basement where most of the activity takes place. There have been a couple of tragedies, a few tragedies tied to this case. I'd like to think it's coincidence, but when you really look at the whole picture, it becomes semi-fact. So what we want from you, I guess, is to see what you pick up, if you're picking up entities, and what your feeling towards everything is that we're dealing with.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to go out on a limb. It appears that possibly someone has been using some serious dark possession going on. Possibly 2 women murdered. Maybe someone has been stabbed or in some nefarious way. There's definitely some treachery going on. There could have been a child involved in the situation. This is not very vague. I mean, I'm seeing all of these different things. The root of this appears to be some kind of deal. Definitely someone is seeking some kind of communion with Satan. So I don't know if I'm even on the positive possible road at all, but it's very nefarious.
Now, are you getting that through abilities or through the cards?
I'm getting it through abilities, intuitions. Mm-hmm. These just intuitions, and I'm just sitting in my 100-year-old house, 40 miles west of Chicago. So,
Okay.
I mean, initially I was going to start discussing, for some reason, the Amityville issue, even though a lot of people call it a hoax, but it could have been some kind of ancestral ground, some kind of, ancestral curse issue. I mean, I just was compelled.
I know what you're picking up on.
You're
kind of picking up my family history. That's my family history. I didn't even realize. Yeah, actually, not to tell the audience too much about me because it's not really about me, the show, but my family, there is a history of witchcraft, and one of my aunts was stabbed. One of my other aunts, we're talking like great aunts. I mean, it goes way back. I don't know how far, but one actually had an abortion with a hanger from one of the crazy women in my family.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I mean, this is not front-loaded. I mean, that's just my first-time intuitions. I mean,
that is like stories in my family, and I don't know exactly what year it was, but there is that's been a well-known story in my family. There was a few more tragedies that occurred.
Well, that's where major serious. I mean, we haven't chatted. I mean, maybe I am picking up just on you because you were mostly the one I've only been talking with over 24 hours. But it's the gambit. I mean, I'm getting all kinds of flashes. Definitely picking up on some kind of child. So what went on in this basement? I mean, was someone murdered down there?
No, this home was built in '96, so it's fairly new. But the entities always traveled with me. So basically, I moved from New York to New Jersey to Pennsylvania. Now, this home is the most active. Now, I don't know, like the people I bought the home from are very unhappy, but I'm not going to say it's anything from them because it's always followed. It's just that this home happens to be the hub of where everything becomes an outbreak. It's like a one big portal, the whole house.
Interesting. Are you getting a lot of outside audio phenomena, like weird booms and crashes?
Frequency noises that are unexplainable.
Yeah, which is common, but I tell you, I don't know. I mean, you're trafficking with satanic forces, but your claim that you're not satanic or practicing. Yes, there are evil entities. There are existing personalities that weren't good in life and aren't good in death. Some of them are even alien. I mean, you're looking at an entire universe of cosmic evil, in my opinion. You know, I mean, getting into my philosophy. So do you feel that you are trafficking, so something is attached itself to you?
Most definitely.
Do you seek to rid yourself of this, or are you...
Well, we went down that road. We've had ministries, we've had shaman, we've had priests. We've lost every single battle over the last 2 years. So now we're just not talking about that because it stirs things up, and they do listen. And it caused a lot of problems here with myself and the family. So now we're just trying to seek evidence.
So I'm understanding that I was correct about an ancestral curse, because, I mean, this is something that's been with you for some time, and
Yes.
it does seek your destruction.
Yes.
And you fell into serious depression, you feel weighted down and such?
Well, I feel like my abilities towards the darkness has become stronger every single day. That's what I do feel.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you want to do? Do you want to rid yourself of this or go further?
We're trying to experiment and see what we're dealing with.
Okay.
So,
Well,
for example, like what entities we're dealing with, Beelzebub, Malthus, like who we're dealing with, on what level.
Well, you know exactly, and these things can have 1,000 names, but it really doesn't matter. I'm only seeing one central evil force. It's definitely something that you conjured, but you had something prior to this. You had, you know, I keep going back to this ancestral curse, even picking up Karissa's issues, but for you being weighted down and almost destroyed by this entity, I think that it would be time for you to conduct a banishment. But this is a black magic origin entity, so you're only going to get a black magic magician like myself or someone who's real to be able to banish it. There's a lot of watered down type of practitioners, you know, white light and so on, that could try, but they're just going to piss it off. This thing allowed to be let go will eventually probably destroy you. It's going to bring you to ruin. It does not wish you well. It does wish you harm, and those around you. Do you have children?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a son?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was detecting then. And you know that this is possibly jumped?
Jumped?
Yes. So what you're trafficking in is jumping into your family, jumping on to your family members?
You know, we suspected that, but we weren't 100%. But we did suspect that.
Yeah, I mean, it's jumped. So that's where this child came from, because I was like, why am I seeing a child? Why do I have nefarious darkness going on? I mean, overall, you're a nice person. You're not out trying to hurt people. You're not a criminal. You know, I mean, you're not out to stab grandma on the train platform or something. So you seriously have something that's with you. And I think a banishment would be necessary. You've tried these other things, and they obviously have not worked, or so on, because, I mean, that's why we're chatting. But, you know...
This show, I just want to cut in here. This show is not about to talk about that. And
I understand.
Because you don't understand the outcome. So we don't even want to go there.
No problem.
After 2 years of having serious issues that are unexplainable, it listens, it's here. The energy's coming into the room, so we don't want to talk about that. We want you to do the cards and pick up with your abilities and see what you pick up and who we're dealing with and how many we're dealing with.
Okay. Yeah, it's just one central force. It's possibly, you know, Asmodeus, which is something, a general terminology for an evil entity. You know, and it does, you know, it seeks harm. I don't know much more. I mean, it's pretty nefarious. It's been with you for some time. And do some reading on it if you
Yeah,
want.
definitely.
Okay, so let me do a little card reading. And we're getting all serious here. A lot more serious than I expected, but that's okay.
Winter,
'Cause
what
yeah,
kind
go
of
ahead.
what kind of cards are you using?
I would, actually, these were bought for me. They're from the 70s. I'm just in love with them. They're like, there was only like 300 of them made, and my good friend got them for me, and they're kind of out of the bounds. They're not Crowley and so on. They don't really have a name. They are probably, British or Irish in origin. So let's look and see what's going on. Hanged Man. Cards channel. Cards are good because they channel, reflect a consciousness, and I'm picking up quite a few here. And I'm picking up even Norene's energy. Norene, you said you don't practice, or you are practicing witchcraft, or no?
Oh God, no.
You have any desire to?
Oh no. Oh my God. No, I'd be scared to death. I wouldn't know what the heck to do.
Yeah, it's weird. Well, picking up something going your way, don't know why.
Oh no.
Yeah. Wacky. Overall, a lot of swords flying around. We have the Hanged Man, so it's definitely Phil's issue. He's been searching in this endeavor. Not to keep, going there. Phil, do you have any specific questions other than the entity itself and so on? Are you looking?
Yeah, so I'd like to know who is the entity, if we can get a name.
Okay, it's Asmodeus.
How many? I'm sorry?
It's Asmodeus. It's Asmodeus. It's Asmodeus.
Yep. I've heard of that before.
You got it off the Goetia.
Yep.
Okay. So go ahead. Next question.
How many entities are here?
He's only working with himself, but he comes in many forms. And I'm not trying to spook you again, but he's jumping around. It's just him as a force. It's a gated force. That means during the use of the Goetia, you channeled Asmodeus. It's only one, although it may appear to work in several means in multiple fashions. That means you could have 4 events all at once, but it is only Asmodeus.
And what is? Let's ask a question to the cards. What is his deal with me, Philip Siracusa?
He's, you channeled him. He's attached himself to you. He seeks your destruction. He seeks your soul. This was some kind of deal you were making. That's the bottom line. I'm getting 6s all over the place. Pretty common and pretty bizarre. Not necessarily common, actually. Backing up. It's pretty bizarre. I've got 6 of swords, 6 of pentacles inverted. So this indicates that when you were channeling, you were really hitting this high and hard, and probably during a younger years, you were even pursuing some of this or had an intuition to. So it's really just the gambit. And you've had some bad luck, some luck, and things have just not gone your way?
No, that's actually the complete opposite.
Okay,
Everything
go
goes
ahead.
that way because I'm able to open up doors through the darkness.
Okay.
Now I'm 48 years old. I've been practicing since the early 90s. Late 80s, I bought that book of Gosha. And when I want to open up doors and make things happen, not all the time, but sometimes under the darkness, it works. So it opens up. It never seems to be a point where, like, the little haunts and things like that, yes, and the bumps in the night and the shadow people. But when we ask for things in a certain room of the home, those things do happen.
I see. So you're getting serious results. Phil, do you want this even gone? I don't think a part of you wants it gone.
We're trying to understand.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, he's trafficking with you. You're trafficking with it. You have a dark entity that is almost then working with you. If you're not suffering ill luck and you don't necessarily feel labored by it, then it's a positive, it's not a negative. So, you're clearly using, or use of black magic has maybe benefited you, but it's tormenting and possibly terrorizing certain things in your household, causing these ghostly reactions and so on. Very demonic in origin and following you around. It's interesting. Overall, you're feeling your health is okay?
Yeah, it's like the way I understand it, and Karissa's been on this case as the psychic medium for a few years now, the way we're almost understanding it is that as if it wants somewhere to go. It wants a mission. And it sounds crazy and out there, but it's like you could send it somewhere. If we have a strong enough intent, that's what we're trying to understand what we're dealing with. It actually is that intent towards maybe a rival that I don't like. Mm-hmm. And it listens. It always listens. So over the years, I've had about 20 paranormal teams here. I've had everybody under the sun with high abilities to try to understand it the way I'm understanding it. And it's as if it can go wherever it wants to, whenever it wants to, and torment.
Well, Asmodeus is one of the strongest demons in the Goetia. He can bring riches and wealth, and he can lay ruin. And for whatever reason, he likes you. I'm personally on a mission. I think any black magic practitioner is on a mission. Power is our guiding light. All you have to decide is what you want. Do you want to bring this stronger and more and adhere to this force, or do you want to release it? Me personally, if you have it like this, you could probably gain yourself some serious money and power if you sought that as some kind of end game. There's probably a little bit of a black magic practitioner still in you, right? But you don't practice right now.
No, I haven't practiced in years, but it's as if everything becomes into the memory where you don't have to open up the book anymore or light a candle. It becomes, if you have a strong enough intent, whatever is around you, the way I'm finding it, listens.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good. Well,
I have to laugh.
And what do you want to do?
No, which?
No, I think if you have it, go ahead.
No, it's funny. I have to laugh this one out. It's just funny because she's looking at me.
I'm not looking at you.
It's we're trying to understand it. We're really trying to grasp it. I'm not going to say that living a haunted life is all pleasures, peaches, and cream, because it ain't. But I will say that people ask me, what side are you on, good or evil? It becomes a point where when you practice so much for so many years that you're trying to understand exactly what you're dealing with and what's the return that it wants, and why does it always listen to you?
Well, you trafficked with it. You summoned it. During your use of the Goetia, you proclaimed Asmodeus as one of the high Goetian, demonic forces, and it now is working with you. There is some kind of demonic power. I personally traffic with demons all the time. Evil is, inherent within our society. I believe that good is a construct which we built around ourselves in order to keep ourselves from slicing each other's throats. These conditions of our savagery, we have a beast within, and the beast can be, go in many different ways. But this is clearly a demonic force that is not deprived. It definitely wants to be unleashed. You have about 9 more months to decide. It could be as soon as 9 weeks. I see some kind of travail occurring. I don't know. Maybe you will send it out or it will inflict something on someone. But, if it's not doing it to you, and then you have, good ways with it, Do you read cards?
No.
Are cards over there right now?
No.
Okay, if you had some cards around, I'd say for you guys to draw.
I don't have cards.
I don't know if they're here. I don't remember, and if they are, I don't know where I hid them.
Okay, no problem. I was just going to say maybe have Phil draw a few cards, and we could ascertain what this mission it wants, and what could be the outcome. I mean, there could be riches here, or it could be just having a bloodthirst. I mean, I'm a black. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. I know I had them here. I just don't remember if I took them home with me or not.
Well, the tarot is a tool. The tarot is just a reflection of consciousness. You know, we could get into the mind's eye of what Asmodeus is doing. You know, Asmodeus is a multifaceted creature. You know, it's 1,000 eyes. It's an omnipresent force that is throughout the universe. It's a cosmic satanic consciousness. So, you know, it's in many different forms in many different places all at once in a simultaneous way. You know, my background is philosophy and quantum physics, and I've been getting into a lot of things with quantum thinking. So, you know, there are things happening all at once in simultaneous fashions with this. But Phil definitely has it. I mean, you've got something you channel with. A lot of people try to get there, which for some reason you managed to really put yourself in there, and something's working with you. Now, if you want it gone, I have some suggestions.
Right. Yeah, I don't want to entertain that portion.
Okay.
Because what, you know, like I said, we're being watched, and I'm very delicate on the words of removal and stuff like that. Very delicate, because as we in the physical world can hear and see each other, let's not fool ourselves that these entities also are way ahead of us in the way we think. And even if a blind man that was also deaf had a thought of removing an attachment because he felt possessed, that attachment would do him harm. And I've seen that happen. Now, it's our thought process that it also listens to. And I realized that in our way of thinking. So, you know, tonight's experiment is, you know, to see, okay, so we have a name. Now, let me ask you this. How did you get that name?
It's just an intuition. I traffic with demonic forces all the time. I mean, I'm not going to tout things, but I'm like at one with these dark entities. I mean,
okay. So you're 100% that is the entity?
Yeah, it's Asmodeus. Asmodeus is with us, and he is with you. Yes.
Okay, so can you draw cards and I ask a question?
We could try. I could also throw some runes too. We could do all kinds of different things to try to get some results. But let's go ahead and we'll use cards. And you know, a lot of times, to be honest, I'm to the level where I don't even need cards. But cards are good as a conscious tool of reflection. So you go ahead and meditate, Phil, and be real with me.
Okay.
So you go ahead. We're gambling with fate here. Okay. So I'm shuffling. You tell me when to stop. And I wish you could see me, but I'm not. You can't for whatever reason.
Stop.
Okay, good. Now, you want me to take it off the top or the middle?
Top.
Okay, now go ahead and ask your question.
What is your deal with me, Philip Siracusa?
Asmodeus?
Yes.
Okay, we have a reverse fool card. I think this one is going to take you on a ride. I think it's for entertainment purposes only. I think the world is available to you. Asmodeus is definitely interested in taking you on a ride. We're going back to that mission statement again. This ride could be very destructive. His deal with you is strictly entertainment. So you're entertaining.
Okay. Let's ask another question to the...
Go ahead.
Is it Asmodeus that is harming the people?
We're getting
that are related to a curse that might have been sent out.
By yourself or by a curse that was sent out upon you?
That it was casted from me.
Okay, that you cast. Well, we're getting the King of Pentacles, which is avarice and power. That's symbolic of Asmodeus. You could see the cards I'm using. They have the horns on them and everything. So this thing is absolutely, in my opinion, Asmodeus. I mean, he is all about money, intrigue, cunning, treachery, reversals. Was it sent by something, a curse or something? No, it's just, it came out of the Goetia when you were channeling it. I think it's just a natural flow. And if you did in its name cast a curse, you would have great results, even in the past or the future.
Okay. Which kind of makes sense. So what you're thinking is that it's the same entity that's traveling and appear in different ways. Maybe a shadow person, a horsefly, a spiritual ghost.
Absolutely. It is all one central force, but in many, many multifaceted forms. And in many places and at many times, it's omnipresence. You have a really amazing demonic entity. It is like one of my favorites. That and Mephistopheles are like these two. And, this is going completely cold with me. We didn't discuss this ahead of time, which actually I enjoy. So yeah, maybe someone else could tell you something different, but I am picking up on his energy, and it's kind of speaking to me in a lot of ways, and it's kind of enjoyable. So go ahead. What's your next question?
There's a spirit that's been around me since the early 90s as well. She goes by the name of Sarah, presents herself as a young girl. Now, we've caught her on audio, her actual voice. Is Sarah a ghost that was earthbound at one point in time, or is it this entity pretending to be other things like Sarah?
It is the entity.
And how did you get that?
We have the reverse Queen of Pentacles, which is identical to the King of Pentacles. But this is being inversed means an evil force. She is definitely cunning and dark, very much mirroring the feminine side of Asmodeus.
Wow.
So Asmodeus is both, or it's everything, like it?
Mm-hmm. This is like, I'll take a screenshot of this when I'm done, or a photo, and I'll send it to you. But when I get these are intuitions that are pretty accurate. We have the inverted Queen of Pentacles right next to the King of Pentacles. And you were talking specifically about a feminine power. Asmodeus can take on that role. I believe that Sarah is either sent out by Asmodeus or a part of Asmodeus in one form or another. More than likely it is Asmodeus, just in another form.
Okay. Yeah, we never knew where she came from. She presented herself as a young, innocent girl that was trapped, but yet she would listen towards people that we didn't like.
And she listens to me too.
Yeah. So Karissa, has been here. She came with a paranormal team a couple of years ago, and she lived in the case for 4 months and then became friends with the family. And it's as if Sarah listens. And, we try to debunk it ourselves and say that's impossible. Like let's say we had a problem with somebody and we'd say, you know what, Sarah, take care of it.
Well, I don't even say that.
Well, I would.
You do, but I don't say that. I
Right.
just have if I have a
we
problem
were
with someone,
trying
then she just goes.
We would just try to understand it. And do you think that's possible?
Oh, it's very possible. I want to deviate for a second. How are you with the wilderness? Have you had any experiences like with hares, like with rabbits, like an odd black rabbit at all?
I've been having a lot of weird experiences with rabbits recently. Not until recent, but.
Okay. I'm just curious.
Why?
Just picking up on some odd energy and weird things. How have your dreams been, Phil? Anything been dragging you down or through a maze? I mean, it's pretty common.
Well, I don't get dragged down. I actually am able to see things that come through different ways. It's like the perception of the entity that comes into a dream and shows me things that are about to unfold within my lifetime. And I try to, again, debunk it or say that, it's a hallucination or it's make-believe. And then I realize that it unfolds. It's as if the entity is always by my side, always on the side of the bed. And, I questioned it over years and years. Is it possible that I feel the bed going down when I'm alone? And then it puts me into an altered state of mind where I see things, and I'm not a psychic or a medium, but I'm able to see things through dreams that actually happen. And it's as if the entity's taking me by the hand saying, this is what's next. And, I do not practice anymore, but it's as if once you've learned it, the craft, then it knows that you learned it and it becomes a magnet with you, the way I'm understanding it, and then it never would leave because it enjoys that you could understand its intelligence, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So your dreams with this situation, they glean some kind of future events sometimes, or
Yes.
you see positive things occur for you. And not so much any odd strangers or anything like entities or signs of what I would call omens saying to go right instead of left. They're not really warnings. They mainly just show you what may or may not happen. Is that right?
Well, they also give me warnings.
Oh.
Yeah, there's also warnings. It could be with law enforcement. It could be with things that I have to do that they give me precautions and not to take the certain way. So, and I think it's in my mind, but then when I try to understand it over and over again, it becomes who's actually guiding me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's Asmodeus in my opinion, and I'm rarely wrong.
To prove this theory tonight on this experiment, and for the listener and the viewer out there, take caution if we're going to go ahead with this. What I want to do is this. I want you to see if you can call this entity by the name that you would through your practice, and I want to see what happens here in the basement through this dream.
Okay, I don't really know if anything will, but let's see if we can get anything. Incubare in nomine Satanas Luciferi Excelsius. In the name of Satan, the master of the world, I command the forces of darkness to bestow their infernal power upon me. Open wide the gates of hell and come forth from the abyss. Through the angles of space and time reveal a sign unto us that shall herald your appearance in this place. In the name of Asmodeus, Mephistopheles, Lucifer, come forth and be one with us. Reveal yourself in your personage through cosmic forms of power. This I command in the name of Satan, whose mercies flourish and whose sustenance shall and will prevail. Shemem Farash, so mote it be. Well, they're mostly an intense vibration on my end.
Over here too.
Yep.
And these things are mostly felt and not necessarily seen or heard, but there is a vibrational power that is streaming through on all levels.
I agree with that.
Getting a lot of tapping and audio phenomena over here, but yeah.
Would you mind if I position the camera so you can see me?
He can't see you.
Oh,
remember?
you can't see me at all?
Yeah, we had defection on that. It just failed, and it probably has everything to do with what we're doing this evening. But
okay.
yeah, so we have movement here.
Yeah.
I was actually going to turn the camera because we do have movement down here.
Shh. Just stop. There was movement in like a black fog, so we will turn the camera for the people that are watching the stream and see if you can capture what we're capturing with our eyes. I don't know if it's going to work for you.
yeah, Asmodeus is one with us. Yeah, very many things are going to be in store for you, Phil. Very many things.
Yeah, I wish you could see us right now when well, I don't know if you can see the energy, but I'm sure somebody will pick it up. Of what's happening. So what are you getting on your end?
I'm getting a lot of loud audio phenomena, and I'm getting a lot of messages. My room is filled with the force. I mean, there is definitely energy here. There could be like up to 11 shadows with us. It is all real and all powerful. So, as a black magic practitioner, I'm very happy, and things are very good, and we will all prosper, and our enemies will be destroyed. I am very real, and you have met someone who is, sought out by many. So this is very interesting for me, and I've really enjoyed it. And I'm really liking the energy and power that I'm feeling from this. And Asmodeus is very happy, and the Wheel of Fortune is going to rain. And I'm not even babbling. I mean, the next card I drew was the Wheel of Fortune. So a lot of different accoutrements are here. A lot of realities are shifting, but get ready. It's going to be a fun ride.
I'd like to ask another question as you draw the cards.
Go ahead.
Is this entity responsible for making me see things that haven't happened yet?
Oh my God.
Okay, let me see. Well, we're getting a reverse Queen of Cups. She's a gazer. She's an illusionist. She's a person that brings a lot of deception. Again, right along the lines of what Asmodeus is bringing here. Very much bringing a lot of different visions to you. And these will not always be accurate. So there's, going back, there is some kind of deception involved. I want to say that, Asmodeus is responsible for your visions and sights that you're seeing.
And you, as a practitioner of what you do, and if you were me, how would you communicate with this entity?
I would go back to the roots of the fundamental thing that you utilized in the first. I would open the Goetia, and I would find Asmodee, or Asmodai, or Asmodeus in the book, and go ahead and do some generalized rituals around that, just proclamations in that basement space, and see your result. And you might even get some real supernatural occurrence. So go back to the roots of
that book was buried in a casket, upstate New York, way back, and for some reason, I was told to do it with other people, to bury that book. Why, I don't know. I try to understand it, and I've often thought about getting that book, but then it wasn't worth it. So it's interesting that you know about this, and what you're thinking of it as well, and why I should.
Yeah, you can obtain the one that was sold at the Magical Child bookstore in Manhattan, but then it moved to Brooklyn. Whatever copy you had came out of that bookstore, but you don't need to necessarily have that book. You can get a different book. You can get a generic copy. If the sigils are right and the time is right, and ironically you just missed your gate because the Witch's Night on April 30th would have been opportune, but I think a year from now, if you can obtain a copy of it and conduct a very simple ritual, you will get a supernatural result.
Now, I just want to throw it out there for the audience that we did not tell him that's where we got the book. He is picking that up.
Yeah, how'd you know where I got that book?
Phil, I am the most powerful black magic practitioner on planet Earth.
That's amazing. I bought that book. Well, I got that book, let's put it that way, from Herman Slater, who owned Magical Child in Manhattan. So that's very interesting that you picked that up as well.
Yes.
So what you're thinking is that, in your opinion, from this reading, is that that book was responsible for the gateways being opened.
And your will, your desire at that time, yes. Your desire at that time and the will and the sigils you used through the use of Herman Slater's book, yes. And you can have good results. You can obtain another copy. It can be a generic copy at this time. There was one, I think, put out by Llewellyn. That you don't need the specific book. But it's going to be something I think you could find a result, and you could gain a lot of insight.
And let me ask you, sometimes there's words in my mind that don't make any sense. Is that the words of the demon? Because it's
and you have to be careful with this. You know, it's a slippery slope. You know, it's interesting. I was having a discussion with one of my French clients, and we were talking about hypnosis and triggers that were placed by a psychiatrist and so on. Have you ever had any kind of connections with psychotherapy or anything like that?
No. I try to actually have people bring me into past life regressions, but they got spooked off. And I did have one lady. I used to own a gym in New Jersey back in 2002, and she was a practitioner. And she put me into some kind of meditative state and started chanting and speaking in tongues. But then a week later, she canceled her membership, and then a month later, she committed suicide. I don't know. I mean, her ex told me that she always says that she brought something out that wasn't supposed to be brought out, that she discovered something, a name, and it didn't want to be revealed. And whether there's truth to that, I don't know, but I kind of believe a little bit that this entity did not want to be revealed.
Yes, and it will drive people insane. And that's why I was just concerned. We've eliminated the fact that there is any exterior influence. That means hypnosis. I am a firm believer in triggers, hypnotic suggestion. I've seen the military and even Soviet Union back during the time of its operations through Department 8. They used a lot of what is known as remote influencing. So all of these exterior psychological and psychiatric issues have been eliminated. I want to say that your voices are absolutely coming from Asmodeus. Do you understand what I'm saying?
It kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense. And you would say that the shadow people and the voices and the growls, and when we have to leave a certain room in the home at a certain time, it's because that's the space that it wants?
Yes, it's getting attention. It's showing its power. It's revealing itself to you. It's showing you what it's capable of, and it's letting you know that it's still near. So yes,
I want to tell you this because there's nobody that's more of a hardcore skeptic than myself. But living the life that I live as a 48-year-old man, I look back at my life and try to debunk almost every apparition, voice, practical thing spiritually that I can. And I have to be honest with you, I cannot. Because when you get voices on recordings and pictures of entities and people are being affected that try to remove it, and car accidents, and throughout all the years and a couple of tragedies, then you start to say, is it listening? Is it opening up the doors that I keep asking to be opened? And if that is the case, what would be its final mission, if not more than just a true understanding of the nature of myself and a beast, what I would refer to as it, because I don't had an exact name up until maybe tonight. And then if that's all true, then is it responsible for all the things that I wanted that I did receive? Was it the same entity was able to open up these doors? Now, we all have a life will, and the will to succeed and, grow mentally, physically. But then it's as if it has its own voice within the mind's eye that say, this is the way we're going to do it, and this is the way we're going forward. And I try to debunk that as well. But then when you have so many people coming forward saying that they've been spooked, and a lot of the people on television have been to my home, I wanted to have this case debunked for a simple reason that I wanted to think that it was either a mass hallucination that everybody was dealing with, or it was psychosomatic, where it's the power of thought that one person could influence another just by telling them that you could see whatever you could see, the color red.
That's what I was talking about, exactly. That's why I wanted to eliminate that, because hypnosis is very real.
Yes.
I have hypnotized people at the Magic Castle in LA, and I've seen people jump around like monkeys.
Yes.
And these are people that are just, normal people. So, that's where you get into, remote influencing and so on. And the Russians even experimented with it and took it to a whole nother level, where this woman Kalunga, who is Russian, was able to make another person's heart stop just by her meditating. So yeah, in removing all of these exterior phenomena or exterior psychic manipulation, you're getting into the supernatural force. You're getting into this. And supernatural means something that is not in our general nature.
Yes.
Something that doesn't fit in our four walls or our four conditions of existence that we are aware of. So what you are experiencing is probably going to be brought out by science within the next few years and unexplained as science is catching up with what psychic and magic abilities are. But I would say that your entity is Asmodeus, and it is befriending you to a certain extent, and it still has something to play out.
Very interesting.
I want to ask a question.
Sure, yeah, let's let Karissa ask a couple questions as well.
If that's okay with you, Winter?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
All right. I want to, it feels like I was picked for this case, kind of seeked out. I'm not going to go into details because you like to go into things cold. So I just want to know, why was I picked out and seeked out for this case?
I think because you're a natural born witch. I think that you have your own ways with black magic that you're not admitting to yourself. I think this is a gateway into an insight of something that you would normally not, go into voluntarily, and the intriguingness of it and the abilities that could be harnessed for you kind of have some kind of end game. So yes, this force, this demonic entity, you did not choose, it chose you, and it doesn't require your belief in it because it believes in you, and that is why it is carrying on the way it is. And it'll be interesting again to see how this plays out.
That's really interesting to me. My entire life, I've been told by other family members that I kind of have the witch gene, and I never really knew what it meant until, recently, before even, I guess, 4 years. I've been on this case for 3. I guess 4 years ago, I kind of looked up natural born witch for some random reason. I didn't really believe in it or anything, but I just remember things that I were thinking that I wanted to come true were coming true. And I looked it up, and, I remember reading it off to my mom, and it wasn't a year later that I'm on this case.
Yes, very interesting. So everything has come full circle, which is how the synchronicity of black magic works. And I don't believe in white magic because everybody brings intention. Even if you pray for something, you're getting intention. I pray for you to get better, or I'm incantating into some kind of white light power in order to bring influence. In my opinion, it's still all black magic. Black magic seeks to bend nature to our will, or even when you're praying, you're seeking to bend nature to your desire to bring about either a negative or an altruistic outcome. Whether a dying man on the bed needs to be raised up and miraculously healed, or some millionaire pig needs to be put down and punished. It goes many different ways.
It's interesting. And that pretty much just answers the question, I guess, why Sarah listens to me and protects me.
Yes, indeed. And Sarah is Asmodeus, in my opinion. And I'm curious to see if anyone else can come up with anything else. But we have the king of avarice himself, and it's a rare thing. And it's definitely channeled here. At least that's the word.
That's interesting.
So asking about the hoof marks when...
Okay, I did get really attacked during this case. I would wake up covered in bite marks, hoof marks, scratch marks. Before I ever even came to this house, I actually got attacked. Do they like me? Or, I'm just kind of confused by it because, it seems like Sarah is protective and kind of a guardian, but then, it also seems like there's something that doesn't really care for me. And it's kind of like, if they're the same, it's a little confusing.
Right. Well, there was a ghost investigation that actually inspired a film, but I'm deviating. And the entity, there was only one. There was only one entity in the entire of this investigation, and it did similar things. It would have sex with the person, and then it would like send in this black feline cat to like scratch her face and torment her, and eventually down in the chapel she was crucified, or this thing fell on her and crucified her, and so on. So yes, you have to be careful with what's going on. This entity is of its own whims. Asmodeus seeks to have its lustful result. It's an entity that is evil. It reflects mankind's evil. It brings out the lust and the passion and the fire of things in the world. It's not something that's going to necessarily play nice all the time. It's kind of like being in an abusive relationship. Someone who, will pet you and fawn you and so on, and then all of a sudden, want to bring some kind of anguish. It's a manipulation tool. So, just be aware that, in my opinion, it's all one entity. And yes, it'll send little Sarah or whatever. It could be 1,000 different things that could show some altruism or some kind of peace. But then at the same time, it could also bring some kind of malevolence, bites, destruction, incubus, kind of situations.
Yep, and again, for the listener, I didn't tell him any of that, besides what we just talked about now, but I was sexually assaulted before ever coming over.
Yeah. I know a lot of things. I'm seeing a lot of things. You guys be careful, I mean, it's something not of the average, I can tell you that, so.
And just one more question, then I'll let you jump in. Why do I get called Mama here? Why do the spirits call me Mama? It's been creeping me out, so I figure I'll ask.
Well, let's take a look at this. Let me cast a card and find this out. So you tell me when to stop shuffling.
Okay,
Just
stop.
Okay, good. Cut the deck or off the top?
Cut the deck.
All right. Okay. Wow. Pentacles the whole way around. You have the Knight of Pentacles reversed. This person is like just mind games to the hilt. A lot of manipulation. I think it just is par for the course. It just calls you names like that just to mess with you because it knows it will. It could have been some kind of scourge or issues you had in dealing with your own motherhood issues, like maybe a possible miscarriage or something too extreme, not getting it so personal. But it's dark. So you just kind of keep your arm out of it and go hand's length with it. It's almost too personal to discuss. But yes, you were talked like this, and it's meant to mess with you. It's meant to stir up emotional trauma.
Okay.
Yeah, psychological, debase, what do they call it when you're in a relationship that's abusive? It's like, an abusive, mentally abusive almost.
Okay. That's interesting. It's kind of the vibe I've been getting lately. It's weird.
Yep. And I'm sure your relationships have been up and down. They've been rough, and it brings about a lot of negative energy. And it can bring on negative energy into your life, and you may not want to have that so much.
It's interesting. I mean, it kind of, there's times where I feel that it's targeting me, and then there's other times where, like Phil said, it kind of guides me, which I thought was Sarah. So it's interesting to hear your perspective, and you've been dead on about a lot of things. So it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, it's the same entity. It's giving you big leaves. Like there's Chinese sayings, give before you take, or it's like being in an abusive relationship. He'll bring ice cream home, and then, then all of a sudden you're being beaten and attacked and you have to call the police, and these issues are prevalent in your relationships. Some kind of trauma it will bring, physically and mentally. So it's something that maybe you didn't expect, but you're dealing with a high demonic order. So do some investigation into the Goetia, what Asmodai can bring, and just read about it and kind of get a bigger grasp of what he's up to.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, I will.
Okay, so let's play devil's advocate for 1 second. I want you to mix up the cards.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask, are we being fooled right now by the name of the entity?
Okay, let's see. Is there deception afoot? And with demons, there always is. And the word democracy is taken from to be ruled over by demons. Democracy. So it's interesting in our world of supposed political arena. In Latin, to be ruled by demons, it's pretty apparent, especially since deception is par for the course as we're steered to a two-party system. So, are we being fooled? Let's see. No, we are not. No, we are not. Knight of Wands with the Wheel of Fortune brings back the Queen of Cups, that one that brings that master deception. It wants you to think that there are 1,000 entities. It wants you to think that it is Legion, but it is not. It is Asmodeus, and it's been channeled from Slater's book, and it's working. I mean, it's positive. It seeks to make everybody rich. I mean, it's not being a negative for you, Phil. I mean, this thing might go your way. I mean, you could win a lottery on this thing. So just kind of work with it if you want.
And in your opinion, how do you work with an entity?
Well, it's demonic, so you would have to go back. You know, you would have to open up the old book. You would have to get out that old, you know, the way you went about it and get your will involved. Although you are an ardent skeptic and, you know, you're going to have a harder time now. You may not be as fluid with your magical working, but that's how you would do it. You would have to, you know, draw the circles and the sigils and get some forces going for you. Even though it is at will that things can be summoned, but this might require an incantation. And I think you would have good results.
Do you have any doubt whatsoever, a 1% doubt, that we're dealing with a demon?
I do not have a doubt. I just don't.
Because?
Unless it's not. I don't know. I mean, I've seen all kinds of things. I've seen people that have died, that have left existing personalities that people thought was demonic in nature, and I've said, no, to me it appears to be some existing, you know, son of a bitch, really. And he died. He was a son of a bitch, and he exists in death as a son of a bitch. But, you know, I feel it's demonic. I feel it is a demonic satanic consciousness. And it goes by a million names or whatever force you want to say, but it's definitely present. It's a demonic evil force, in my opinion. And, you know, I got no stake in it being wrong. So that's kind of where I'm feeling my vibe. You know, as I said, these things work on vibration. You know, they're not necessarily something you're going to see. They're working in an intuitive way.
Now, is that connected to the alienated, like, things that have occurred too?
Well, what kind of alien activity?
Well, I've personally experienced time lapses and medical-like dreams while living here. Like, things were over my body, doing things, and I don't really talk about it. I've also been told I've been shipped by plenty of psychics, and you can explain your side of the alien too.
Yeah, I mean, you know, is there a belief that there's a tie between aliens and demons, or is it just the entity playing trickery as a mastermind?
That's hard to say because I ardently, absolutely believe in alien activity. Mm-hmm. So that could be something separate altogether. Demonic forces are something, in my opinion, that pervade the universe. They're not solitary to this planet. And that's where I deviate a lot from a lot of other people that are stuck in some kind of biblical concept of what a demon is. I feel it is a satanic consciousness that pervades the universe. Now, and also, going into what I said about quantum thinking and quantum reality, the universe is so vast and it is infinite. And if you have an infinite amount of space, you have an infinite amount of possibility. You actually mathematically cannot rule anything out. Now, I don't know if you can understand that statement, but that basically is saying that it's more improbable to say that aliens do not exist as to say that they do. So yes, if you are having alien activity intuitively, never even detected it on my radar, but it's separate from Asmodeus. So whatever you're experiencing is possibly something that is extraterrestrial, and I am an ardent believer in that as well, because I just am a remote viewer, and I have remote viewed the galaxy, and I've seen all kinds of things. Now, there are people experimenting with dimetropylene, taking this new narcotic, and they are having similar vistas and visions and so on, but I don't need dimetropylene to know, what's already out there. But dimetropylene has been a shortcut tool for a lot of people, which is known as DMT, God particle drug, and so on, that you can take in order to ascertain what these aliens are up to, or perceive other realities and dimensions. So if you are having that kind of contact, and you actually kind of, consciously are aware of that kind of contact, that is separate from what we are discussing here today.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing. I've had paranormal teams here that they were in the home, and in the home they felt a heavy demonic activity, but yet outside the home, lights shot away from the backyard, and I couldn't explain it, but then there's multiple time lapses, and it hasn't happened in a while, but when it happens, you lose an hour and a half, and you are sure that, you knew the right time. So it's interesting, and usually when that happens, we get a lot of shadow. It's at the corner of the eye. Now it's actually face to face, where you see almost a full shadow person. Almost, but not 100%. It's like, what am I looking at? And then it's gone. Mm-hmm. And then it's a time lapse. So we're trying to really understand what we're dealing with. And then, oddly after that, there's walking on the roof. Now look, could it be connected? I don't know. But then is it really odd that there's two different things happening at different times here? We've had other people, we've had remote viewers, and people come forward to say that some of these things are totally separate, and it's really an odd case. So that's why these experiments are happening, and this is why this is taking place, to try to understand what we're dealing with on how many levels of different things that we are dealing with, because quite frankly, the general public, even myself, if I was looking at a story like this, I would say it's not true. And I love to live a life and say it's not true. But yet, all the things that are happening that are so mysterious, and then other people come in, and I try to fool them too. When I say, it's nothing but a loving home, and you feel this positive energy. But some of these people come and say, no way. This is the real deal here, what we're dealing with. This is pure evil. So I try to put the blinders on, and I went one step further. I would play religious music in the basement of this home. In fact, I did it yesterday. And then what happens, it stirs things up, and then everybody starts fighting in the house. And I did it as an experiment to see, because it just seems like these entities do not like Ave Maria. They don't like religious music, and I do it to see what I'm dealing with and if it wants it off. And a few years ago, I played that same song, and I have a huge chandelier in the foyer, and it starts swaying back and forth at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I realized that I'm dealing with something that does not like that music.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have crucifixes in my house. I just do, and I often find them inverted and so on and so on. And I don't go into blasphemy or attacking on Christ or any of this or any of the messiahs that have come. And there was this one guy who was a master carpenter, in my opinion, but he has some issues. He's actually not even going, into exaggeration, kind of a relative of Bela Lugosi. He's in the family line, So he comes over and he works on my house. I live on this house, and he mocked this one crucifix I had. You know, he mocked it. I don't know what he was doing. And I don't use crucifixes in my rituals. And again, I don't bash any kind of things. I don't waste my time bashing religion or being a racist. I think these are just tired things, you know. You know, racism is tired in my opinion, and so is bashing someone else's beliefs. That's just how I am. So he grabs this crucifix, he messes with it or something. I go down the next day, I have a seance parlor, and the thing's inverted, which is common, it inverts itself. And when he was working in the garage that next day, he almost nearly cuts his hand off, the hand that he grabbed the crucifix with. Wow. So you have to be careful. You have to be careful when you're trying to taunt this kind of stuff. It's just, and you know, this, if you do have a family around this situation, I'm telling you that you are definitely have an Amityville-like situation going on. So please, you know, just know that, you know, leave that music off, and, you know, if you wanted to get rid of it, it can be gotten rid of, it can be banished. If you want to take it to another level, it can be. You know, you can garner a lot of riches and power from this situation. So it can go either way. And, you know, and actually, it's, you know, going back to what I said, it definitely believes in you. So even though, and I'm an ardent skeptic as well, you know, I've debunked so many different readers or psychics or whatever. I find them all to be jokes, in my opinion. It's kind of entertainment. But, you know, this thing definitely, in my opinion, is real, and it believes in you. It doesn't require your belief in it. And it's very interesting to see how this thing is going to play out.
Yeah, it is. I would definitely, you know, in the future, like to meet with you.
Sure.
You know,
sure, not a problem.
As an experiment to see what you would see around me, or, you know, what this thing is capable of. I've met people at different places that were skeptic of me, and I went outside the home to meet them, maybe a diner or a restaurant, whatever, and I just take pictures and see if there's anything around me, you know. Let's try to debunk it. And then sure enough, some people were spooked off with like, no, this is the black shadow or a black orb that flew by, or they got really sick very quickly because they were mocking anything that was around me that was spiritual. And I found that really interesting, you know, and I said, well, are they doing it to themselves, or is it really happening? Mm-hmm. Now, what's really interesting is that I came out with my first book a couple of years ago, and I had a ghostwriter. I would forward her my story of my experiences, and she really didn't believe in a lot of this stuff, and she would say that she was having activity in her house that she couldn't explain. And I laughed and I questioned it, but I was like, it couldn't be true. But then sure enough, you know, the Horsefly Chronicles, I've brought spiritual writers, artists that live in different states to come and help me with this project. And lo and behold, everyone that was with me a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, in one way or another got spooked off of this case and wanted nothing to do with it. They felt like they were being watched, followed, or harmed. And I really had a hard time mentally understanding that, to be honest with you. I really did. I was like, is everybody crazy? Or is this really happening to people? And having all these teams here, over 50 people that have names and faces have been documented into this case that have been affected one way or another, where they get spooks, they get circled by the horsefly, the shadow, the vibrations, the growls. So you have to, I say to myself, you know, everybody's not nuts.
Or just people drift off like naturally, like they for some reason will stop talking to us. Now, I seem to be the only person that stayed for the 3 years, and then now Norene, love you, Norene, she's here. You know, there's been a couple others that have stuck through lately, but it's weird. It's just like, I don't know why I've stuck.
Oh, yeah. Do you think it's the entity that it puts a stronghold and it doesn't want to work with certain people?
I mean, it probably lashes out with anything that tries to tamper with it if it's not involved with, like, you know, it enjoys, Asmodeus, you know, enjoys games. And I'm sure that when you bring in these 50 people or the experimenters or these dabblers or so on, I'm sure he runs amok with that. And I bet you are getting people that are getting sick. And, you know, he wants the game. He wants the entertainment. And you're providing him with a lot of entertainment. You're bringing in all of these different people. And, you know, that's probably why he likes you guys so much. Because, you know, you are bringing in a lot of people that he can just kind of mess with. And he gets off on it. And plus, he's a vampiric kind of entity, and he can drain your energy, and he's probably draining a lot of energy off of these people, and it garners him a lot of power. You know, he's channeling through a whole nother dimension of time and space. So, you know, he's on his mission, you know, and it'll be still some things to happen. So, I mean, if that makes any sense, I don't know.
No, it kind of does. Norene, you've been in this paranormal field for a long time, and I want you just to ask a couple questions too to Winter. You know, you host a lot of shows and you talk to a lot of different people, and I know that this is our show, but I want you to ask a couple of questions of maybe you have questions for him.
No, I'm just sitting here listening to all of this and taking it
Right.
all in.
Yeah,
And
I'd like to ask.
I really don't know what to ask right now.
Are you scared, Noreen?
Oh, no. No, I'm not scared. No,
Okay.
this is all very, I mean, I've never met anybody like you. I've never even come across my whole lifetime anybody like you, Winter. And I find it fascinating and very interesting what you do. I mean, I've never heard of anything like what you do. Can you tell us again exactly what you are? I know you told a little bit, but what are you really?
Well, I'm a satanic black magic practitioner. I have been since I was a child. I have instead of pushing it off, embraced it, and just took it exponentially to a whole nother level of existence. And I want nothing for the world. You know, I'm doing exceptionally well. I've gotten a lot of power, and I have a lot of influence. And I plan on just going out this way. It's vitality, it's vigor, it's everything, you know, and it's not really a need to sell your soul or any of that. It's just I'm at one with the dark spirit. So, you know, when we start talking about Asmodeus, it gets me kind of excited. You know, I have a lot of zeal for black magic and Satanism. So, you know, it's kind of like the fire of the world for me. You know, I wrote a book called Black Magic is Might, and one of many and discussed Asmodeus. So that's basically what I do. I'm just a practitioner, a philosopher. You know, I also have influence in Hollywood and so on. So that's basically it.
Well, what happens to people like Phil that he has this demonic entity with him? What will happen to him when he dies?
Well, death is only the beginning. And death is very interesting. I was on it with a British show, and we were exploring death recently and the Great Wall of Death and the many billions of people that have died, and how, you know, we kind of know nothing more about this Great Wall. It's very interesting. In my opinion, what would happen to Phil if he were to suddenly die? You know, you start discussing this with me. It can get really spooky because I can tell people when they die exactly. There was a guy in the 50s who was able to chisel a date and time on a rock, and that exact date and time would come true when the person would die. He would make a stone with their birth date, and then he would also put a death date. And I found that this is pretty common. Not common, but it's an ability that I'm coming into. So, you know, let's kind of move away from that. But yeah, what would happen to Phil when he dies, or any of us, is still somewhat of a mystery. But for me, it's not a mystery. it's a very dark subject because humans generally don't want to discuss when they're going to die, but we are mortal. In satanic thinking, there is something that is going to be happening in the future where we might become into a singularity, a satanic singularity, where some kind of essence of ourselves will exist. We could download our mind, our consciousness or something into some kind of living robot. So all of our technology will eventually, even as it has usurped nature, may usurp death. And that is kind of even something that black magic practitioners are shooting for as well. But if it were to suddenly happen, and it may happen, it would be something of a challenge because Asmodeus, or the entity, the force, would be there. There's a lot of devouring that goes on, a lot of energy devouring. And these forces are all working intuitively in that way, and they do work off energy, and that's why when you brought in these 50 other people or so on, and they're getting sick or spooked off or something, he's definitely sapping energy that way. And that's how our universe works, you know. We have an entire dark nebula that can devour a cosmos, and there's not, all the karma in the world is not going to stop that. So, you know, our very nature is all about devouring as well, because we're eating to exist, and we're not a good species. We're a satanic species. And, you know, in my exploration of satanic philosophy, I explore all of this different aspects of ourselves, our killing aspect to survive, our savagery, our innate evil, and all of this.
Now this Asmodeus, does he protects Phil? So if anybody ever went after Phil or tried to ruin him financially or his reputation, would this Asmodeus protect Phil?
Quite possibly, yes. If Phil wanted to go that direction. I think Phil hit pay dirt when he did his Goetian studies off of Slater's books. So, you know, it's interesting. Slater only produced like 500 of those books, and it was based on Aleister Crowley's teachings. Even when he wrote, I think he did a lot of that Goetian stuff when he had a cult going in Italy or something. But yeah, I think that it might protect Phil, and I think it has already. But, you know, these things have a limit, and they you know, Asmodeus is very fickle. He could one day, you know, support you, and the next day he could cause some kind of havoc. And it's just a slippery slope with these kind of things. So, yeah, it will protect him.
I just wanted to mention, you mentioned you had mentioned black rabbits. And it's funny because my sister rescued 4 black rabbits recently. So maybe that's what you picked up.
Yeah, the hares. I was curious about that. Don't know why I kept seeing that. It's weird. There's a lot of odd little signs you see, and then you try to, you know, deduce their meanings as you go along in a conversation. We're all highly intelligent people. We're not insane people. You know, there's a lot of insane people out there, but we're definitely well grounded, and we're very, you know, smart in our way.
It's weird about the rabbits too. You know, I've been experiencing about 3 at a time, and they just stand there in the middle of the road. I actually ran one over by accident, and I'll still laugh at it. It's not funny.
Oh no! Why did you have to tell me that?
Sorry, but you know, and then my best friend actually killed a bunny rabbit the day before, and it's weird that you said that too. And then it's weird that Norene, you adopted bunnies, or someone in your family did.
Well, it's a sacrifice. It's a rite of spring. It's not even intentional.
No.
So it's kind of interesting. But our show and our talk has been very nice.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really, you know, it hit home on a couple things. And that's why, Norene, I wanted your input, you know, because you do a lot of shows. And, you know, I do feel like this entity's responsible for certain things. You know, it's just funny because it's not funny, but it's funny. You know, when you have issues, and then you ask for that person to be dealt with spiritually, and then sooner rather than later it's dealt with, and you're like, okay, was that a coincidence, or is that this thing listening to me? And from what you're saying, it's really interesting. So there's a lot more to it. That's why I would definitely like to meet you in the future.
Sure.
To pick your brain and then test the wills that be to try to understand it more. I don't call myself anything. I just call myself a man that's haunted. So, from this show and you listening to me and what's going on here, would you have a name for it? Because, a lot of people do get circled by a black fly or a horsefly in the most odd times. So is that the same entity that's responsible for showing that it's powerful and in different forms?
Yeah, I mean, these are just little signs to let you know it's around. It is the hair that suddenly stops and looks at you. It is the random, weird, odd, bat that flies by the street lights or something. It is in the wind. It's out in the atmosphere. So, when you see insects and, they're acting in an odd way, these are just little signs. It's just to let you know that there is an apparency and a presence of this entity, and just kind of a little greeting. It's kind of its introduction.
Interesting.
Wow.
That is interesting. Makes sense, though.
It flows in our nature, in our world. Our world is supernatural, and it's becoming dumbed down with sensory stimulus, and a lot of things are becoming lost. People are no longer being fully educated, and they're not willing to embrace their spirit. And they don't really have to anymore. But if the grid goes down and the electricity goes off, it's going to be a different time for everyone, and that's when the savagery of things occur. But there is a presence on our planet, and it lets us know from time to time that it's around. For Phil, it's all the time. For Phil, he went into the Goetia, into a great book that was only printed to about 500 copies. He got his hand on one, probably, and I can see it now, and he had good success with his incantation. And obviously, even if it was even psychic, he probably didn't even need to incant. And even though he just says that he is a man that is haunted, he brought on the hauntings himself by his conduct with trafficking with demonic arts. And they work for him, and they don't work for everybody. A lot of people want that. A lot of people try. They're a dime a dozen. Ghost hunters are breeding like rabbits.
Why do people want that?
What? They want it because people are tired. People are tired of slaving away, punching a clock. They're looking for the quick result. They're looking for the dimetropylene. They're tired of being slaves. They're tired of being wage slaves. They want to have it all the time. That is the ultimate goal of any practitioner, but they're not honest with themselves. And that's where black magic works. It works for me that way, because then you don't have to be a slave anymore. You don't have to be a sheep. You don't have to fall in line and so on. They're looking for a way out, especially in this current culture that is so dumbed down by sensory stimulus. It's lost its soul. The church relic is dead, and it's becoming so one-dimensional when we live in such a multifaceted universe.
Interesting. Yeah. Really interesting. And you definitely hit on a lot of things. You really did hit on a lot of things that ring true. To try to change things for myself, to force that will, and then that door opens up, and you're like, well, how'd that door open? And then it goes back to the words that you're saying. So I find that interesting. And then I find it also interesting that there's a lot of truth to this because of what I'm dealing with. I would try to rule out anything if I could, but I can't. And then when you have other people coming forward like yourself and say, no, this is it. This is what you're dealing with. And at least tonight's show, for the viewer out there and the listener, we got a name. And Winter Lake has been around a long time. He has a lot of books out. He's a credible person in what he believes in, and we got a name tonight. And to me, that's one more piece to the puzzle of these experiments and try to understand exactly what we're dealing with. So if we've taken a lot of your time, Norene, if we have any questions in chat for me, Karissa.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you again. I just had a vibe about you, and sounds weird, but I'm glad that I asked you to come on, and you told me a lot of things that I never told you. So
everything's gonna work out. All will be well.
Winter, do you want to tell them? Do you have a website and where they can possibly buy your books?
Sure, I'm on Amazon. I'm prevalent. I'm readily available for any kind of readings, curse work, or banishing. Winterlake.com with 2 A's. It's the Norwegian spelling of lake. You can obtain me. You can find me. And I respond. I'm like Jobs, with his company. I answer everybody. I look into all kinds of different things. A lot of black magic practitioners have such strong ego or all this nonsense. I don't have any time for these old tropes. Typically when you meet people that are into something I'm into, they get into some kind of superiority complex, and they're just ridiculous. So I have nothing to do with that. So I'm very down to earth, and I just keep it real. If anybody wants to get in touch with me, they can. And that's pretty much it.
Oh, awesome. Would you come on my show as a guest soon?
Sure, let's chat. We can chat about philosophy. 5,000 years of the human condition.
Okay. I'll get a hold of you.
I mean, you have to look at the whole picture. Currently living in a current Rome right now. We're up in an election where we're in some kind of criminal two-party system. We're being put, this is all we have. We're pointed these two directions. It's getting kind of ridiculous. People need to awaken. I mean, it's safe road. I mean, Americans like to stay safe. But, we are being very much controlled by a grand design within our system. And I would say it's a demonocracy, to be ruled by demons, democracy. It's Latin, it's borrowed, and it's very indoctrinated with satanic thinking.
Wow. So, Phil and Karissa, anything else for Winter?
Just, again, I'm just blown away by certain things, and I'm sure we'll be in touch on Facebook. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone stay strong. I'll check out now. You have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, Winter. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Yep, nice to meet you too. Bye.
Bye.
Oh my God. What do you guys think? You got a name.
I'm just blown away by certain things that he told me that I never really even talked about. Like the natural witch thing for me is something that I maybe told Phil that I kind of figured that out, but no one else.
Oh, really? Yeah, I never heard that from you before.
And then the whole ancestral thing, he really that's like a dark family secret in my family, and he just started talking kind of about it, and it's weird. And he didn't even know he was talking about me.
Oh, how do you feel, Phil?
I think it's really interesting that he picked up Magical Child, Herman Slater,
Mm-hmm.
the whole, that to me was an eye-opener. That rings true. I mean, and then the fact that he picked a name, he got the name of the entity.
Yeah. And it makes sense.
I've been told before about that certain name, again, it's one more piece to the puzzle, but a lot of things that he said didn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And for the viewer and the listener, I'm a family guy, just trying to understand so I can bring this to the world that this is what we do. We're trying to learn. I don't talk about removal because of the things we've dealt with that are very bad here. So we want to learn and understand. And tonight was a great show for that, to learn and understand.
And that's kind of why I brought this guest to the table, for us to, we've had the lighter psychics, the light side psychics, which are awesome. A lot of them have been dead on about certain things. But I kind of wanted to get a different perspective on this case and a different, a different grasp. And it was really interesting to hear that different perspective. And I think that's important when you're a paranormal investigator, to stay open-minded. And, for everyone that watched tonight and liked it, I want to thank you, because that's part of what we do. No one's an expert and no one knows every single thing. And it's important to get all the different pieces of the puzzle so you can connect the whole thing.
So, Norene, what do you think? What's your input?
Well, I am really taken back. I wasn't quite sure about Sarah, and so Winter says that Sarah is a demonic entity, the Asmodeus, but on the feminine side, which was very interesting to find that out. So what does Sarah have in store for you? Now, what about your next book that you're writing? Are you going to have to change anything?
No, it comes out the way it is. There's a lot of moving parts to this that I'm still trying to rack my brain around. And it's crazy because every single day, something else happens here.
Yeah.
It's just, it's like one thing after the other. Mystery things that you just can't understand. It's very hard to comprehend. But why don't we do this for the last few minutes? Does anybody out in the chat room have any questions they want to ask while we're here?
Yeah, they had some questions for Winter, but I think I'll save that for another show. He's extremely interesting.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I know he does. He's involved with black magic, but I've never come across anybody like that before, and I'm interested to find out about different people.
Exactly.
Some people were scared away tonight, but you know what? That's why you keep the paranormal, to any part of the paranormal, you have to keep an open mind. You can't keep it closed. And by doing these shows with you and all the other shows I do, you have to have an open mind to do it. And you find out things and you talk to people that you may never have had a chance to talk to before. And that's why I love what I do.
And he's really interesting. He was a really fascinating guest. He got a lot of the things dead on, and I had good vibes and feelings about him, which I'm sure some people will just exit out right now. But, I did, and that's why I decided to have him on the show. I'm so glad you guys were open-minded to it. I want to thank both of you for it. He's definitely blew me away tonight. And
oh yeah, well I thought it was a fabulous idea, something different, and he brought the information to Phil.
Which is why we're doing this, and it's nice to see from a different perspective.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was really impressed.
Oh yeah, he was awesome. Very, very interesting. And I'm not afraid of him. Just because he deals with black magic and Satan, I'm not afraid of him.
No.
So I thought it was awesome. Really
Yeah, it really was. So, do we have any questions out there, or the ones?
Does anybody have any questions for Phil and Karissa? I'm glad you. Now I know some people left because they were afraid, but thanks everybody. We have a nice crowd. We have 88 people in the chat room right now. And anybody have any questions for Phil? Please type them in caps so I can see it.
Yeah, and also, I just want the viewer, listener, I want to say thank you, but I also want you to understand that we're doing this because we just can't take the lighter side, like Karissa said. We're trying to have all aspects to this so that maybe one day there is a puzzle that's put together. We do understand it, and if we understand it, then the world understands it, how it works. Winter said that one day this will be in science books, and I think that's what we're getting to. That's what we're trying to understand so that it becomes not like it's mystery, but it's like, here it is. Here's the facts.
Yep.
And here's how it works. And each episode that we're doing, we're getting closer.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't sway towards good or evil or hatred and pain. We sway towards understanding and experiments. That's what this is for.
But, part of my job is to bring the most professional guests in every arena.
Yeah.
And I think that I honestly want to say that I hit it on the head again this week, not trying to pat myself on the head. He may believe in the darker side, but he's actually a really nice, non-judgmental person, which is important.
Oh, exactly.
And we should all learn something from that.
Now, what's interesting enough is, Norene, is that when I go into the room that we call the portal, it's got a deadbolt on it. It's interesting because it's as if you have a different thought process once you're in that room for like a half hour. You start to think different. And then when I asked Winter, if I had an intent, or anybody went into that room with an intent towards arrival, is the entity actually listening? And he says, yes.
Wow.
And I find that interesting because I've done a lot of radio shows, and I would catch this apparition, this energy floating in the air, and I think it's my mind. And it's been caught on film with Dave Spinks. And yet, there it is. And that fascinates me. That really, there it is. It's amazing that we're talking about it, but it's caught on film. Now, when you think about it, what we're dealing with, it's an energy.
Yep.
It's an evil energy, but it listens. And when it listens, it goes to our thought process of what we want. And if he said also that a lot of practitioners or people that maybe practice black magic, they want a power that they don't have. And it's because their intent is not strong enough. And I have to be honest, I felt like I've built such a strong intent with the other side through all those years that it becomes almost as if you go into that room with that evil intent of a thought process, and there it is. It unfolds itself to do a bidding. And I don't do that to, I mean, look, I'm a family guy, but it's interesting because of how it works. That's what fascinates me, and how it understands, and how it's so intelligent.
There was just a bang in that room.
And how it's so intelligent. It's mind-blowing.
Now over there.
Yeah, so that what's actually happening in the basement is there's things...
Well, the bang, it's kind of... The bang came into the portal room, which we're not in tonight, just because I came over really late. I rushed. And then it just went over there, and now it was behind us. So I don't know if... And it was over there again. So I don't know if anyone can hear these bangs, but we hear them, and it's pretty... It's actually pretty intense here tonight, Definitely when he started the reading, the energy vibration that he was feeling, too, we were feeling here.
Oh, yeah, when he was talking... whatever, Satan's language, whatever it was, the energy here, you felt, I'm going to describe it to the listener, but you felt this pull. Like, first you're being held down, then you feel this vibration. Mm-hmm. And then he felt it. So that's amazing of how much energy we're actually dealing with. I mean, if you could bottle it, it'd be amazing.
We do have some questions. River wants to know about the book, so I'm assuming he's talking about the Book of Gosha. He wants to know about that.
The book was buried. The book is a very powerful book, and Winter picked it up. There wasn't that many made around the world. I happen to have one that was from Herman Slater, who owned Magical Child. I was forewarned not to get that book, but I wanted it. And I guess there was the intent that I was strong enough to get it that I got it. And long and behold, I didn't believe in the book, but it works. And that's the scary part about it. So, and it's buried. It's buried. And
but what is the Book of Gosha? But what is it? What is it? What's the intent of it?
It's pure evil. It's a passageway to summoning entities. And when you summon the entities, then you ask them to do certain things in the physical world. And not everything is listened to, of course. Not everything. But
not everyone can.
But they listen, and if you have a strong enough belief in them, then they believe in you, like Winter was saying, then they'll...
Well, no.
There it goes. So then it's crazy right now. And there it goes again. Wow, I'm sorry. There's things happening here that are unexplainable.
Yeah.
So it listens, and it's listening right now because it's here.
What is it? You getting banging noises?
Now is actually, I just caught energy floating through the air.
The banging happened previously to that.
Yeah.
But, when he was actually summoning stuff, I was looking over there. He's like rambling on, but there was a knock there, and then the black fog thing it was like a black fog I saw with my eyes. And I just want everyone to know that I don't really see the black shadows with my eyes normally. I don't see the circles that he sees. I see the masses, but I've never seen something like that. It was like smoke.
Yeah.
It was interesting. It was definitely kind of intense tonight, and I don't know if anything was picked up on the stream, but
no, I mean, I didn't hear anything. But
it was pretty nuts. Just the energy in general, and it'd be interesting to see if any, psychics or sensitives that did stick it out for the show did sense anything or pick anything up, the energy vibrations that we were feeling over here and on his end.
Now, Aaron Kemp wants to know, can you buy copies of the Book of Gosha? But Phil, I know you have something to say about that.
I would say don't buy it, but then again, they're hand-me-downs, and they're not the exact wording of the original books. The original book the way it was written with passageways, a lot of the stuff now is not written that way. But then again, I don't even recommend it, even as to tamper with it, because it kind of draws you in, and once you're drawn in and you don't know what you're doing, then it can bring harm. And I didn't know what I was doing.
Harm. I mean, you know,
you think dealing with things that you don't know.
You're summoning up the unknown, and when you do that, you know, there's always the possibility, well, higher chance than not, that things are going to go wrong. We don't recommend buying the book. We don't recommend practicing it, because unfortunately, in Phil's situation, like even Winter touched on, you know, he was fortunate, if you want to call it fortunate, to build that. It almost has like a friendship with you for whatever reason. You know, as he was saying, there's so many people that want that but just don't get it, and unfortunately, you know, you put yourself into a position to be an open target when you are summoning or practicing and you don't know what you're dabbling with. So I wouldn't recommend it personally.
Of course.
Okay, Mama Joe wants to know, Phil, question, what are your thoughts on dreams of witch possessions?
Well, you know, it's funny that you asked that, because when I was dealing with it back, you know, the Book of Ghost show back years ago, the only way I could really understand it was to take possession of it and be possessed by it. And then a lot of the visions that I have through dreams unfold. So I think that even what Winter said, there's that spiritual connection with the other side, that when it opens up that gateway, you're able to see things that other people don't see. And I do try to debunk it. I'm the average person, but yeah, I can't debunk it. There's certain things that I gave up trying to understand it. Now I just deal with it.
I can't pronounce the name. It's C-Delp. I can't pronounce it. Sorry. They're asking, why did Phil get into satanic worship?
Good question. And you know, here's another thing I tell people not to tamper with, and that's called a Ouija board. A Ouija board is nothing more than a board. It's cardboard, but it's the intent to communicate with the other side. And I didn't believe in the board. I didn't believe in any of this stuff. But after seeing shadows from a child and all the things I've been through, I bought the Ouija board. I tampered with the Ouija board, and at first nothing happened, but then hell broke loose. And then when hell breaks loose and entities know that you're trying to communicate with them, they lead you down a path to other things. One is, I was dealing with potions, incense, the special candles that were made from wax and blood, and it led me right to that book when I went to that place in New York City, and it was locked behind a glass showcase, and I was drawn to it. I knew I wasn't leaving the store without it, and it's as if when an entity knows that you can work with it, it'll pull you to it, and that's what happens.
Wow. I don't think there's any more questions.
Did you just...
Wow.
Yes, we definitely opened up something again here tonight.
Yep.
You know, and it's really interesting. I want the listener to understand that we're doing this for experiments, so that we could show everybody. And you know what the final experiment would be? Here's the final experiment. If we can get a full apparition and the voice behind it, I've proven my case. Not only to me, but I've proven to the world that we can communicate with things that we don't see, for the average person as well. And that to me is fascinating.
Yeah. You know, from last week's show, somebody sent me a message, or they made a comment underneath the show, and they said, next time when you use the Ovilus and you're asking questions, also have a digital voice recorder, so you could play it back, because sometimes they will whisper, or they'll talk into the you'll pick up a voice from the recorder. So that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea, actually. We should try that.
You know, next week's going to be another awesome week with another awesome guest. We're going to make you guys wait in suspense of who I'm going to bring on this time. But, you know, it should be another good one. So I already have someone in line. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, it was a fabulous show tonight, and I thought the guest was awesome. You did a great job, Karissa.
Thank you.
Oh my God, I really enjoyed it tonight. It was
Me
really,
too.
oh.
It's refreshing to have different perspectives, you know, and I'm just such an open-minded person. You guys are as well, that I'm glad that we're working together because, you know, I didn't know how you guys were going to handle it when I came up with this idea, but I'm so happy that you guys both said yes, and I just thought that it was an awesome experiment.
Yes, it was. It was excellent show, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. Well, everybody, thank you again for joining all of us. And we got to thank our mods. Without the mods, because we did some work tonight. They did some work tonight. Royce, thanks so much for being mod. You did a great job, and for Crystal as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Much appreciated. Okay, so do you guys want to say goodnight then?
I'll start. You can wrap up. But thank you, everyone, for listening, and everyone that stayed through. Thank you to the mods who have kicked out the trolls. You guys are awesome, and we love you all.
Yeah, and live from the Horsefly Chronicles home, the basement, I want to say thank you. I really do, for watching the show, listening to us, and trying to help us and put questions out there next time. Even under the YouTube video, things you want to hear, may want to see, an experiment you might want done. We're all in this together, and everybody have a great night. Thank you, Norene.
Bye. Thank you.
Good night. Good night. Thank you, everyone. Good night.